Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Defenders and Lab Coast. I am your podcast host, Reanna Schultz, and today we're going to be taking a spin on it. We're going to be collaborating as part of us being laboratoriers. So today we have our special guest. We have Andrew Wilder. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Reanna.
How's your day?
Going great. How's your day?
It's going fantastic. So one question I have for you, Andrew, is tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into cybersecurity?
Well, it's a funny story, and a lot of people ask me about it, and people think that they can use the same pathway that I did, which I think is somewhat doubtful. So I started, the first job that I had out of school was at a paper company. And I did customer service at the paper company. And because it was a small company, I actually ended up doing everything. I did marketing and sales and inventory. When we get really busy, I'd go out in the warehouse and drive the forklift and pick pallets and put them on the truck. So one day the owner of the company comes to me and he says, "Hey, Andrew," he says, "we're going to replace our old mainframe computer system with Windows servers and Windows workstations." And I said, "Sounds good." And he said, "Well, you're the youngest guy, so you get to work on it." Okay.
Oh,
So for the next 2 or 3 months, I worked nights and weekends. I did all the kind of data conversion by hand. And one day we go live with this new program. And it's just an amazing feeling of pride for me in my very young career. And I had a moment of reflection and I thought, you know what, maybe I should do this IT thing as a career. So I had some PTO saved up. I saved up a little bit of money. I went to this Microsoft boot camp for 2 weeks in the middle of winter in Chicago. But 7 exams and 2 weeks later, I came out with my MCSE certificate.
yes.
And then I could put my resume out all over the country. I got picked up by HP doing some cyber consulting work for Bank of America in Atlanta. So moved across the country from San Diego, started working there, and then did a number of different gigs with HP consulting cyber stuff. Got job offers from all the companies that I worked at, which was cool. I guess they liked me, and ended up taking a job with Nestlé to be their information security manager for their largest business unit. And then about every 3 or 4 years, I ended up staying at Nestlé for 18 years. And about every 3 or 4 years, they just give me more scope, more team, more budget, more responsibility. Since then, I've been a CISO a couple of other times. So global CISO for a company called Hillenbrand, and then CISO for a company called Community Veterinary Partners. And I, as you said, big in the community, trying to do the thought leadership stuff. I do a lot of podcasts and things. I speak at a lot of conferences. So really trying to help everybody else. I don't think you can take the same path that I did, but certainly you can start in consulting and then use that to get your way into the industry. But maybe not exactly my customer service at a paper company way.
Now, how many times do you get asked, how often do you watch The Office?
Yeah, usually when I tell that story, I start with, "Have you ever seen the show The Office?" And then I'm like, "Oh, it's not unlike Dunder Mifflin. You got the warehouse staff and the office staff." But I love The Office. I've probably seen the whole thing all the way through like 6 or 7 times.
Whenever you were talking about the forklift, I just pictured Michael driving the forklift out of the warehouse and
Michael, you
just
should not drive the forklift.
Stop it, Michael. And of course, like now, like working in cyber, I work on the SOC side, right? So you have people that are very literal following directions. And it's always the episode where Michael's following the GPS and it's like, "Michael, it's a lake. Michael, stop, it's a lake." And it's like watching this, car crash about to happen. You're like, "Stop, guys."
I hate technology. Technology made me drive my car into a lake.
How dare you? So you had mentioned conferences. What was the first conference that you have ever attended?
So I've been attending the RSA conference for more than a decade, probably like 12 years. Now, I haven't attended every single time. I think the first time I went was in like 2012. And then I would say every other year since then, I've been attending. Now, a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to be a speaker at RSA, which was awesome. And now what I've learned about RSA is it's really more about the meetings that happen outside of Moscone than it is about what's happening there itself. This year, I've done a lot of conferences. I don't know, once you start doing it, like your name gets out there and people start inviting you. So I don't know exactly how many, but I think I've been to like 6 or 7 conferences outside of St. Louis, not including the ones that are local here that everybody goes to. So.
Yes. I don't know about you, but conferences is the reason why I got TSA pre-check. So
Well, I had it before that, but it works well there. And actually,
I
there was one time we were flying back from RSA and we were in the San Francisco airport, and my friend had clear and I didn't have
yes.
it. And the clear line was like 5 people, and the TSA
Yep.
pre-check line was like 300 people deep. And he's like, "Later, man, I've got clear." He bought breakfast for us and was sitting at the gate waiting for me with breakfast while I got through the 300 people in TSA pre-check. So at RSA, right afterwards, trying to fly home, TSA pre-check doesn't help you that much.
Oh, no. I think, there's always that, like, that one airport experience that sells you on the pre-check or, like, the clear option, and mine was the Denver airport, so
Denver will do it to you as well. Yes.
absolutely. Now, did you, when you went to your first conference, were you just kind of researching around, or was it word of mouth on how you discovered RSA?
So back in 2012 at Nestle, we were going through a journey for a thing called Lean, which is
Yeah.
like Six Sigma. It's like a process
Yep.
improvement thing. And
Green
I had
belt.
this mentality at that point, like, I know that my team works really hard. I know which of our business units are doing better than others. And my boss was like, you know what? We should probably like really embrace this KPI kind of thing. So
Yep.
there's a methodology called, or what do I want to say? Not a reference, but a framework called the SANS Top 20. Well, now it's called the
Yes.
CIS 18, but at the time that I took the course, it was the SANS Top 20. So before RSA, SANS offers some like full day courses. So I went and did the
Mhm.
SANS Top 20 course, and I started to understand all of the different controls. And I brought that was the only chance to take it was by going to RSA. So I ended up going to RSA, and then I was like, I like RSA, I'm going to keep going. But the SANS Top 20 thing really helped. When I came back, we created what we called the Security and Compliance Index, and it was about
Yeah.
80 different controls where we could look at all 60 different business units. And we started, the idea was to bring transparency of cyber risk in the organization. But
Right.
what ended up happening was this really healthy competition between the business units to try and get the highest score in the index so that they could say that they were the most secure. And it ended up being like a bonusable objective for everyone in Nestle and IT. So like you would never call someone and say, "Hey, I need you to fix this thing," and they'd say, "Oh, I can't do that." You'd be all, "Hey, we all have this bonus. Like we need to work on this thing together to fix it." So
Right.
it ended up being a really powerful tool and a great kind of start to my conference life, if you will.
Absolutely. And I think I don't know about you, but there's a lot of cyber security Discord chats or groups or, even local community organizations. And lately, and I don't know if it's because, DEF CON has recently been done and everyone's on that cyber camp hack. I would say passion right now, but there's been a lot of questions I've been seeing emerging, such as, I want to get involved in conferences, but I can't afford to fly out to Vegas for these very big ones like Black Hat every year. Now, with people like that, what do you suggest on how they should locate conferences and which ones do you recommend in their local area?
Yeah, so there's a number of good local conferences. Now, if you're in the middle of nowhere, my hat's off to you. But
Yep.
there's a number of kind of these like traveling conferences. So one that I like is Secure World. They do a St. Louis show. I've been there a number of times. There's another one called FutureCon that does a traveling show. And actually, one that I just went to yesterday is called HMG Strategy. Now, that one is only for CIOs and CISOs. The other two are for anybody who's interested. So some of them require you to be at a certain level or something like that. But it's you can definitely go to some local ones. A lot of times there are opportunities to go to bigger conferences on like a scholarship.
Yes.
So I remember the lady who was facilitating our speech at RSA, our panel. I said, "Hey, have you ever been to RSA before?" And she said, "No, this is my first time." And she said, "I'm a college student and I got this deal where like if I go and help facilitate some of the panel sessions, then they'll pay for my whole RSA experience." So I know there are some opportunities out there like that. So go and look for those things. I'm sure that you can find those. I don't have any specifically. There's also a few good web pages that will sort like these are the best cyber
Yeah.
conferences. Take them all with a grain of salt, because sometimes they're motivated to choose one over the other. But I really like RSA. I've never been to Black Hat. I would love to go to Black Hat. I finally went to the Gartner one this year. I thought that was pretty
Yeah.
good. I did Identiverse, which is also in Vegas. It happened to be the same week as one of the Grateful Dead shows, so I got to do both at the same time. Yay me! But a good conference like focused just on identity. So yeah, there's a lot of good ones out there, and I'm sure that you can find some that'll fit your needs.
Yeah, and I remember I was actually Vegas. I went to B-Sides Vegas last year,
Uh-huh.
and there was a lot of college students that were actually just volunteering just to get into a lot of these events for free, and they would just put their name out. And that's something I never really thought about early on in my career. And if you think
Yeah.
about it, it's probably a good resume experience because it's showing that initiative of going above and beyond.
Yeah,
Now,
I want to go into that initiative thing for a second. I
yeah,
know you have another question, but
you're good.
so I'm on the board of FBI InfraGard, and we do a
Yeah,
conference once a year in St. Louis, and it's free, by the way, so anybody can go to it. If you're in St. Louis, you're welcome. Um, but there's a couple people at that conference who, after the CISO panel, came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm really interested in cybersecurity. I'm getting this certification. I've taken some courses at the university or whatever. Like, do you have any advice? Can I give you my resume?" Those people have a great opportunity to get into
yeah,
the industry, right? If you're just like clicking on LinkedIn job applications and submitting your resume and thinking that you, out of a stack of 1,000 people, are going to get a
yep.
chance, you might. But if you go to conferences and really network with people, and the other advice that I always give people that I mentor about networking is, you always need to make a networking experience a mutually beneficial relationship. Like, I
Yeah.
would never go to you and say, "Hey, Reanna, can you help me with this thing? And I just need your help so bad. Here's the thing that I need help with." And it would always be
Right.
like, "Hey, here's something that I need help with. Is there anything that I can do for you?"
Yeah.
Right? Because you always have to give it back, because everybody's bombarded with stuff all the time. But if you're doing
Oh,
something
for
where it's
sure.
mutually beneficial, then people are much more motivated to try to help you.
Absolutely. And, getting experience, I feel like these days is hard. It's like you said, right? It's just applying to a pile anymore, it feels like, and having that initiative and that drive kind of really make your resume and your profile stand out even on LinkedIn. There was one advice I got early on. I don't know if you even can relate to this, but someone said your network is your net worth early on.
Okay.
And I don't know. I don't know if you ever feel like that, but cyber is a very small community, in my opinion. I feel like everyone knows someone that knows someone that knows someone
Uh-huh.
at some point at some country. Now, going back to getting experience, how did you get into public speaking? Was it something that you applied for, or was it something that someone was like, "Hey, would you be interested in this?"
Yeah, so I was invited to speak at a conference in 2017, and actually at that point I was a regional CISO. I wasn't a CISO, but they invited me anyway to speak with a bunch of other CISOs. And what ended up happening is, when we got there, the person who was supposed to be the moderator couldn't make it, and so they said, "Does anybody want to volunteer to be the moderator?" And I'm like, "I'll be the moderator." So, by the way, in my panel yesterday, I was not the moderator, and it's very relaxing to not be the moderator. But I'm happy to do it if I need to do it. But
Yeah.
that was kind of my first foray into it. I think I'd done some sort of virtual stuff before,
Yeah.
and at Nestle, I got a lot of opportunity to go speak in front of people. Like, one of the things that I did totally outside of security is I built like a employee onboarding program. So every
Yeah.
time that program would run, I would go and like do the kickoff, and I'd be there with like the whole class of students for like, I don't know, 15, 30 minutes or something like that. And I go check in from time to time. But that gave me a lot of comfort with it. So
Yeah.
if there's organizations that you can join, but people are not always looking for leaders to speak on panels. There's
Hmm.
a lot of times that people want like subject matter experts, like people from the
Yep.
SOC, who know, kind of the real details of what's going on. I know what's happening, but I know it at a very high level. So people who
Right.
are really subject matter experts times are desired and wanted to go and speak and go on those panels. So there's definitely opportunities for you, especially at those conferences, the more regional conferences that I spoke about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know about you, but when I attend these conferences, I feel like the people that are super passionate with what they're talking about, regardless if they're in leadership or an individual contributor, those really passionate talks, I still remember to these days. And I'm talking about 4 or 5 years ago. And you're just
Yeah.
like, wow, those people are excited about hacking, or security education. Oh my gosh, I'm excited to go teach about phishing now. So with that, with that also being said, I know you give a lot of talks, both local and region wide as well. What was one of your most favorite talks that you had gave?
Wow. So my friend Mark Ashworth and I did a dual keynote at
Yeah,
FutureCon in 23. And it was the first time I had done a keynote live in person. I'd done some keynotes at virtual conferences, and it was also the first time I did like a tag team approach. And Mark's a really good guy. He's the SVP and CISO at First Bank here in St. Louis. A really like, great guy in the community. In fact, we were just he was at the conference yesterday, and we had a great time together. Like we're buddies, so it made it fun, and we kind of riffed off of each other. And in fact, the way that we laid it out is we did like the data privacy impact, and then the positive impact and the negative impact. And Mark did the data privacy, which was the first part, and then I did the negative impact, and then we did the positive impact together, and we were just going back and forth. And all the people at the end who gave us feedback said, "Hey, that was really great keynote." They said, "I loved the third section where you guys were going back and forth with each other, because it became a much more natural conversation. If you see a keynote where it's just someone speaking the whole time, it's very different than if you can have two people." So that was a lot of fun for me. I would say that was one of my highlights.
I like that. I absolutely like that, especially when that energy and that excitement you can definitely feel with the audience, and for that feedback to come back, it has to make you feel so good.
Yeah, I like
You're
it.
like, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah.
I'm making a difference today.
Everybody comes up to you afterwards and they have questions. They want to talk to you, but there's like a line of people wanting to talk to you.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
I'm not an expert on this. I'm just trying to give some ideas out here. You guys are the experts.
Absolutely. And, now do you ever have, like, a routine before you go up and speak? I know with, like, my conferences, I have to go to Starbucks and get a pink drink. That is,
Ah,
like, my like, how sometimes baseball players, they don't wash their socks for the entire season?
yeah.
My socks is my pink drink at Starbucks, and I will sip on that all the way up until my presentation, and I am ready to go. I know,
That's
like, when
awesome.
yeah, there was one time I decided to change it up and to get, like, a sugar-free Red Bull, and, like, the entire time my hand was shaking, and I was like, "I'm not nervous, I promise, I'm just jacked up on caffeine right now."
Well, I don't have a routine, but I do have a story, a kind of humbling story about the one time that I had to speak in front of a large audience where I was nervous.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like my first or second week at Nestle as an employee.
Yeah.
And the IT North America group had a conference, and it was like
Yeah.
it was all the leaders. We Nestle at one time had this really cool. They think it was called Carnation Farms. It was up near Seattle. They had it was like a summer camp for adults, right? They had these
Right.
cool cabins and like horseback riding and all this cool stuff. So we went up there, and like the last day of the conference, you break up into different groups and you're defining like the objectives for all of IT for the next year. And so my team's like, "Hey, Andrew, you're so energetic and everything. Like, you should go and you should present our idea to the group." So I go up there, and like I'm the youngest person there. Here's all of these people that I've looked up to for years, and now I'm working with, and the back of my legs, like your lower
Yeah.
leg, like that part of my muscle was like shaking, right? Because I could feel all of that adrenaline pumping through me. And I went out there and I did it. And after a while, I got kind of more comfortable with it. But since
Right.
then, I've not really ever been nervous to deliver something, because after I was able to do that, I was like, I'm pretty good at this. Like, I can handle this now.
Yeah. And well, one thing I remember when I was early on, like in my speaking career, it was just like, they're gonna know I'm gonna mess up. Like they're gonna know like the content's wrong. And so you spend like hours and hours with preparation, it feels like. And then when you get up there, you realize nobody knows if you're gonna mess up or not. Like you're the only one that knows this material.
Yeah.
And I think especially with like novice speakers or speakers that are very young in that journey, that's where they get caught up. Being all nervous with public speaking is like, oh, the audience is gonna know. The audience doesn't know,
No, no. They're there
they
to
don't
listen
know.
to you. You can make mistakes and be human. There was
Oh, yeah.
at the panel that we did at RSA, we did a number of preps for it. And
Hmm.
in the preps that we did, we presented it to a group of CISOs that we know here in St. Louis. And what
Right.
happened is as we were going through the questions, the panel would answer, but then the people we were presenting it to would also like give us feedback right there on the spot. So because
Yeah.
of that, I was like, okay, it's going to take this long, and we need this many questions. So we get to RSA, and we're going through the panel, and I see the timer, and I'm like on the last question, and I'm like,
Right.
we're gonna run out of time. We have too much time left, right? We're gonna run out of questions. So I start ad-libbing questions on the topic. We know the topic. We've talked about it before. There were some questions that we had that we kicked out, and I kind of remembered those and sent those out. So we
Yeah.
get out there, and two of the panelists afterward come up to me, and they're like, Andrew, what were you doing? What were these new questions? We didn't rehearse those. I didn't know those at all. And the third guy, he goes, you did? He goes, I didn't pay attention at all. He goes, I
Oh
didn't
my gosh.
rehearse the first ones. I had no idea. I was just answering off the cuff the whole time.
You're like, I like this guy. Now, with there being so many conferences and, we kind of go back to DEF CON and Black Hat, a lot of people spend a lot of money and time and energy and, they're sitting through all of these talks. What's some advice that maybe you can give to the community as to how do you bring those talks back to your day-to-day? How do you bring those back to your team or even your own personal growth?
Yeah, so one of the things that I always did when my team would want to go to a conference or go to a class or whatever, the
Right.
requirement would always be absolutely, but when you come back, you're going to need to present back what you've learned to the rest of the team so that we can all learn from what you did.
Yeah.
When I would go to RSA, even though I'm now a very much an anti-floor guy, a lot of times on the last day of the floor, I would get a couple of those big bags and just run the whole floor and get every piece of swag that people would give me. And then I would come
Yes.
back to my team and we'd do like games and like raffle them off, or you could draw a number out of a hat. So then everybody ended up getting like a piece of RSA and getting
Mhm.
some swag and getting something that they could take home and remember. So that's one thing you could do is bring back swag for people. But the other thing, of course, is bring back some of that knowledge. And even if it's like two or three things that you take out of a really important thing, go do
Yeah.
that. I saw a keynote over the weekend from this guy. Is probably going to blur out, Ethan Mollick,
Yeah.
and he's a professor who teaches generative AI now, and really amazing, really brilliant guy. And so,
Yeah.
okay, like I was so inspired by his keynote that I'm like, I'm going to buy his book, and now I'm into his book. And of course, when I'm done, I'm going to go back and share this with my team and buy it for other people. And you got to keep the
You
learning
gotta
going.
Yep, continuous education is super, super big. I remember my very, very first boss, he goes, "Hey, you're gonna go to Sands." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" It's like Christmas in July. Thank you. And then he goes, "Yeah, but you're gonna have to come back and do like your own teaching with the team." I was like, "What?" I was like, "I don't want to go anymore." But that was probably the most impactful thing he has ever done. And I thought it would like kind of scare me away. And for you to say that, it just gave me nostalgia flashbacks early on in my career. And it's so true because everyone then gets to learn. It's a
Yep.
very one team, one fight kind of mentality. And you want to make sure everyone else is set up for success. So that definitely hit home for me. So thank you.
No problem. My philosophy is if we don't continue to develop ourselves, we will become obsolete.
Yes.
The same thing that you're doing today is not the same thing you're going to be doing 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. So you have to keep learning. You have to keep going cutting edge with what you're
Yeah.
doing because everything's changing rapidly.
I made a joke one time at a conference. This guy was talking about AI and how he used AI to create his tabletop exercises. And at the end, him and I were just talking and everything. And I was like, remember when people were talking about cloud and how scary the cloud was and how people are scared of AI? you know? I was like, next thing you know, we're gonna have literal robots sitting in the sock. But awesome. Now you talk about swag items. I have to ask, what's been your most favorite swag item that you pulled off the floor?
Wow. Well, I'm a big fan of bourbon, and a number of
Yes.
places will do like auction off a bourbon at the end, or like draw your
Ah,
name out of a hat for
yes.
bourbon. I do remember. I'm kind of a swag consultant, so I advise for 10 different cyber startups, and I will
Yes.
always remind them the good things about swag. There's one company that gave me a really comfortable T-shirt, and I don't know what that company does. I don't care what they do. I like that T-shirt and I wear it. So people will use your swag if you use it. One of the things that we got for InfraGard is this thing right here. This is a phone holder for your desk. So you
Yeah.
just, it's like, it's not sticky, but it's kind of rubbery right there. You just put that on your desk. And when we were doing new swag, I forced them to get that as well. So I would say people will remember your good swag.
Yes.
Avoid pens, notebooks, stickers,
Gosh, yes.
pop caps for your phone.
Yep.
I believe there are two types of people in this world: people who want a pop cap on their phone and people who don't. And the people who want them, I guarantee that they have had the opportunity to get one. If you have some branded pop cap thing that you're handing out at a conference and think people are really going to put that on your phones, you are absolutely misled. So
Yeah.
that's not a good one. I'll be more than happy to tell you which swag is bad. And I also have a collection of about 30 Yeti mugs in my
Oh my
kitchen.
gosh. I made the joke the other day. I stopped buying new clothes because I just have enough Fender shirts to last me the entire month. Half of them were Splunk, but to be fair, Splunk has catchy slogans.
Yeah.
Actually, if you want a funny story, one of my employers back in the day, someone got offended with my Splunk shirt, and I had to get a call from HR because my shirt said, "I like big data, and I cannot lie." And it's not a
I've
lie. I
seen
love
that
big
one.
data.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
big data.
I think there
But
was another one that said "good in the sock."
oh
Right?
yes.
I mean, they're being funny. It's okay. Yeah.
I think someone just read the shirt and didn't finish it. They were skimming the language.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, with that being said as well, that's definitely like a good thing for the consulting side, right? You know your audience, know who's going to stop at the table, what's going to be the eye grabber, and I won't drop company names or anything, but how you market your company, in my opinion, at these conferences can be definitely good or bad in some cases. So,
Yeah.
um, you get to be known for a T-shirt or some other stuff. So.
Don't be
I
known for
like
the bad stuff.
no, and I definitely like the unique swag items. I think the coolest thing I've seen was a snow globe, and I
Snow
wish I
globe.
grabbed it. I still regret it to this day. I wish I would have grabbed a snow globe, but yeah. So
Yeah.
Andrew, I know we're hitting on that 30-minute mark, and I definitely want to be cautious of your time and everything that you do. So, one last question I'm going to ask you before we leave the Defender Lab is what's one advice that you want to give to the community, whether it's someone with a lot of years of experience or maybe someone just getting into the field? What's one thing that you would like to share with them?
So I'm gonna first of all apologize to people who have heard me say this before, but I say it a lot. One of my favorite things, and a mentor told me this many years ago, is no one is going to care more about your career than you do.
Yes.
So make a vision board for yourself of what you want to do 1 year, 5 year, 10 years from now, and make the effort every day to achieve those goals to do that, and figure out what are those things that you need to do. There's a nice equation. 1 to the 365th power is 1, but 1.01 to the 365th power is like 37. So by just doing small incremental improvements every day, you can achieve really big things, and you can achieve your dreams and all of your goals. Now, if your dream is to be a CISO, let's talk about that, because you might want to choose something else. But they're like the Wayne Gretzky thing, right? You miss 100% of the goals, the shots that you don't take. So if you don't know what your goal is, if you don't have something, you're definitely not going to get there, right? So do that. Care about your own career. Don't rely on your boss or HR or somebody like that
Yep.
to do it. Go out there and make those things happen for yourself.
Awesome. I really like that. And then I know I said that was my last question, but if somebody wanted to reach out to you, what is your next speaking event? And then what's also a good way to follow you on social media or a good way to contact you?
I don't know what my next speaking event is. Um, I'm really not sure. But if you want to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Andrew Wilder. Pretty easy to find. So
Awesome. Well, thank you, Andrew, so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. And thank you for visiting us in the lab today.
it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. See you guys.